So I know we spend a lot of time talking about the different crazy things that Trump likes to say at his rallies, and I know it's a bit repetitive because he says the same types of things at all of his rallies, but I definitely think it is important that we call out all of the insanity that comes from a Trump rally. He wants to be the president of the United States, so I definitely think it is important to continue going over his rallies. And that's no different from the Turning Point USA event he recently spoke at. We've got a lot of his same brain glitches that we see at many of his other events. He spoke about J6ers like they were hostages and he was going to pardon them from prison. And then he told a whole bunch of different lies about Kamala Harris. Tried to say that she was the border czar even though she wasn't. That was a moniker given to her by right-wing media. And then he tried to say that she was the one who started the defund the police movement. And that isn't true either. He even tried to say that Kamala Harris doesn't like Jewish people, even though her husband is Jewish. But instead of focusing on all of the crazy things that Trump likes to say like we normally do, today I want to look at the worldview that Trump is crafting for his MAGA supporters. Instead of talking about an aspirational future for all Americans, Donald Trump uses fear-mongering, scare tactics, and divisive rhetoric to create a reality that is just not real. So let's go ahead and kick things off by looking at what he had to say about a California bill that aims to protect trans kids.
Kamala Harris supports California's outrageous new law trampling on parental rights and allowing minors to change their gender without parental notification or consent. Can you imagine?
So Trump is just wrong here. What he wants you to believe is that schools are allowing your kids to trans themselves without letting you know. They're trying to hide things from you and strip away your parental rights, when that just is not the case. The bill in California that he's referring to, I think, is Assembly Bill 1955. And all the bill did was ban schools from creating mandatory reporting policies for LGBTQ issues. And I think we can all agree that there are some scenarios where this makes sense. If we have a kid that is being abused at home and hasn't come out to their parents, would it really be a good idea for schools to report back to the parents when there could be more of a threat of violence for that child? Now, I know these are tough questions, but we should debate them rigorously, and we should be creating policies that is in line with our values as Americans. But Trump wants to use these divisive issues to create false narratives, to create realities where people are scared that they're going to lose their parental rights. And this is just unacceptable. Trump should not be allowed to do this and get away with it like he does. He's creating realities that aren't real. He does the same thing when he tries to say that Democrats are allowing post-birth abortions. Let's go ahead and take a look at what he had to say there.
The womb in the 8th, 9th month, and even after birth, execute the baby after birth. The baby is born. Remember the former governor of Virginia? He said the baby is born. We sit with the mother and we discuss what you want to do with the baby. In other words, if you want, we'll execute the baby after birth.
This type of thing is not happening anywhere in the United States. Trump is just lying here. Trump was the one who appointed 3 Supreme Court justices that overturned Roe v. Wade, that allowed for abortions up until viability. But now he is using this issue to create fear that Democrats are killing babies right after they're born. This is ludicrous stuff. If you were to kill a baby directly after it was born, that would be called murder. And no state in this nation would stand for that. But Trump, again, he's just using this fear-mongering tactic. He wants to create a villain out of people on the left in hopes of maybe motivating you to vote. I don't know really what his end outcome would be. But then he wants to go on and say that Democrats are also rigging elections. They're cheating. Let's go ahead and take a look at what he said about that.
What's that thinking all about? The radical left Democrats rigged the presidential election in 2020, and we're not going to allow them to rig the presidential election in 2024. We won't have a country left, right?
Is anybody else getting sick and tired of Trump whining about how he lost the 2020 election? We can't forget that Donald Trump took more than 60 court cases into our courts and wasn't able to prove any widespread voter fraud. He knows that he is lying here. Everybody in his past administration told him that he had lost the election. But instead, he is lying. He's creating false narratives and trying to create a boogeyman out of Democrats and liberals, trying to say that they're stealing your country from you. And they are going to do anything they can to do that, even if it involves cheating in elections. This is absolutely unacceptable. Donald Trump should not be allowed near offices of power, especially the President of the United States. It is absolutely insane that an election denier who lies about the election being stolen from him might be reelected in 2024. Absolutely insane to me. But moving on, we already know how he talks about immigrants. He wants to say that there is an invasion of undocumented workers coming across the border and making it unsafe for Americans. Let's go ahead and take a look at what he said here.
Of any, whether it's cheating or any other way, it's impossible to believe somebody can say, let people come into our country. And I mean, these people that are coming in are rough. The only thing good about, they're so dangerous and so bad, they make our criminals look like very nice people. That's the only thing good about them.
So this is just a way to dehumanize immigrants. And I don't think it really matters to Trump whether they're undocumented or not. He uses this language for a reason. He wants MAGA supporters to believe that immigrants coming through the southern border are making your country dangerous. That's why he speaks about them in this way. He wants you to believe that there is an epidemic of migrant crime, as he would put it, when that is just not the case. Americans commit way more violent crime than immigrants do, and that is borne out by the data. So shame on Trump for talking about all immigrants like this and dehumanizing and belittling them just so he can get himself reelected in November. Then he wants to say that Kamala Harris is trying to destroy your Social Security and your Medicare, even though Kamala Harris and the Democrats are the ones fighting for these programs. It's people like Trump who would actually roll back Social Security and Medicare or raise the retirement age or whatever it may be. Let's go ahead and take a look at what he said about this.
Kamala Harris will destroy Medicare and Social Security. She's destroying it. You watch. Flooding it with millions and millions of illegal aliens who she will turn into American citizens so that she can get the votes for the Democrat Party.
So now he's using immigrants to invoke fear about your Social Security and your Medicare, saying that immigrants are going to come into the country to steal your benefits. This is just not true. Undocumented workers and immigrants are unable to access these programs. In many cases, they pay into these programs billions upon billions of dollars and then are unable to draw on them later in life. So it's absolutely shameful that Trump is trying to create this world where people think that people who came from outside of this country are going to try to steal your money, steal your benefits. It's an absolute shame that we have a presidential candidate creating these false realities, all in an effort to gain more power. And we already know that Trump has authoritarian ambitions, and what he said next might shock you. He tried to say that you won't have to vote again in 4 years. Let's go ahead and listen to what he had to say.
I don't care how, but you have to get out and vote. And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians.
So what am I supposed to take from this? What it sounds like to me is that if he's reelected in November, that he's not going to let go of power, that he's going to remain in office or try to seek a third term or do whatever he needs to do to make sure he remains the president. And by this rhetoric, you would think that he would just stay in power and not allow elections in 2028. How else can this type of language be interpreted? And of course, it wouldn't be a Trump rally unless he was talking crap about America, like he always does. Let's go ahead and roll it.
But now we are a nation in decline. We are a failing nation. We are a nation that has lost its confidence, its willpower, and its strength. We are a nation that has lost its way. But we are not going to allow this horror to continue. Less than 4 years ago, we were a great nation, and we will soon be a great nation again.
So if you didn't know any better, you would think that Trump is like some Russian, maybe a Chinese person, who knows? But he sure talks like he's an adversary to the United States. It's quite wild that he's running for president and he speaks so poorly about our country. Our president should be cheerleaders for our nation and be working for all Americans. Why don't we expect that from Trump? Why don't Republicans call this stuff out? But let's go ahead and recap. The whole point of this video was to look at the worldview that Trump crafts for MAGA supporters. And so far, we have a nation in decline. We're a failing nation. And everybody, including the mainstream media, is lying to you. He wants you to believe that there's an invasion of an invasion of immigrants at the southern border. He wants you to believe that they're being dumped here from jails and insane asylums. He wants you to think that they're making this country an unsafe place to live. They're even killing Americans. He goes on to say that people are trying to take your Medicare and your Social Security away from you, and that parents' rights are being stripped away, and they're trying to trans your kids at schools behind your back. He wants you to believe that Democrats are killing babies right after they're born. How disgusting. And then, of course, the 2020 election was stolen from you, and they're going to do whatever they can to steal it from you again. If I was a MAGA supporter, why wouldn't I think that political violence might be the appropriate action to take? This is a doom and gloom worldview that Trump has painted for MAGA supporters. And it's quite insane to me that not a single one of them are calling this stuff out. Republicans used to be the party of law and order. They used to be what they would call themselves patriots. They used to fly the American flags. But that is not what we're getting with Trump. He's creating an America for his supporters that is dangerous, that is overflowing with immigrants. He's trying to create a world for his supporters where they think that they're trying to steal your country from you. And then, of course, he pairs that with, he will be the only one who can fix it. This is straight out of the authoritarian's playbook. This should be unacceptable for any presidential candidate, whether you're Democrat or Republican. It's just my hope that Republicans somehow are able to purge this guy from their ranks, because he has no business being the president of these United States. So that's going to do it for me on this one, folks. If you got anything out of this video, if you could remember to smash that like button and hit subscribe, maybe share with a friend or two, I'd very much appreciate that. If you think I got something wrong, or if you disagree with me about something, feel free to drop a comment below. And if you want to learn about the different visions laid out between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump with their recent campaign ads, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. And I will see you guys on the next one.